Before all that, our next guests have made headlines for their very hands-on role in the controversial new series Virgin Island.
As professional sex surrogates, Slade and Andre Lazarus have been tasked with helping the show's participants overcome their intimacy issues.
But what sets them apart is just how far they're willing to go, which can include sleeping with their clients.
They're both joining us to reveal what really goes on behind closed doors. Good morning to you.
Thank you both so much for coming in.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
It's so interesting because when you first start watching the show, you kind of watch it a little bit like that, behind your fingers. And what's so interesting is how you see all of the people on there just grow and flourish. What's been your feeling of the reaction of the show?
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch and to see all of that back. I think it can be hard to watch, like, intimacy and to see intimacy. But being able to see the progression of everybody is so amazing.
We had two of them come on the show, and it was really wonderful to see how they've grown and the difference that it has made, clearly going on to the island. Andre, just explain a little bit what a sex surrogate is, what's involved in your jobs and your professions.
So surrogate partners or surrogate partner therapy is where we, as the surrogates, work with clients and also a licensed clinician therapist. And we work on varying intimacy issues, the education, and then by the end of it, the idea is that we're all working in tandem towards an end goal.
And you know, but what we see in the series so far and what we've seen and your experience with the virgins that come on the show is you are there essentially as a catalyst for them to be able to explore physicality in a way that is safe and sort of conducive to them learning about what it is that they can do and how they can do it. Is that
Absolutely.
Right?
So it's about consent. It's all about choice, making sure we're creating a safe container. But really, it's about them learning about themselves. And then when they're ready, whenever that might be, to go into a relationship, now they have education behind that.
And how, Kat, how did you get into this? Because it's not a typical job that, you know, people would necessarily talk about.
They don't necessarily have it down the job centre, do they?
Yeah, I mean, my background is in dance, and particularly like somatic dance and improvisational dance. And I found that those spaces had a lot of emphasis on like touch and sort of contained relationship. And I sort of was trying to find a way to incorporate therapy, but couldn't find the right thing. And then as soon as I found out this was a job, I was like, oh, that's my job. That's what I want to do.
My degree was in dance, and so I spent 3 years dancing with a lot, and it is a very physical, intimate form of art, isn't it, actually? And I can totally understand why, if that's something you've learned and you've loved, why you would want to be able to do that. And you can share, because the point is you're sharing your body with other people.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot, like, it's a very creative field, which I think people don't really think about it as, like, that way.
What do you mean by that?
Like, when you're working with somebody and you're in a session, we have a general toolbox, but sometimes you just have to kind of like see where they're at and see what they're feeling and come up with an exercise on the spot that will help them move through it. And I feel like there's a lot of similarities.
So, Andre, Kat came from a very artistic background. Yours was very different, and you've come through a very different route to where you were. What was your background?
Yeah, I already had varying years of intimacy work that I was doing, coaching people through relationship challenges and other intimacy experiences. And then when I found out about surrogate partner therapy, I was really excited because I believe that working with the body is just as important with working the mind, and this is an avenue in order to do that. So yeah, I was really excited to actually dive in.
Yeah, it's hard for people on the outside sometimes looking in, because so often intimacy involves emotion too, and it's an attraction. And
all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the time.
So how do you differentiate, and how do you keep things separate? Or do you, actually?
No, differentiate, like, emotions and the physical side of things. We don't try to keep them separate.
Right.
We really want all of that to be a part of the process. I mean, it wouldn't really help people to just learn the physical without, you know, actually being in it emotionally.
Yeah.
So we welcome all of it.
But, Andre, isn't that exceptionally hard, though, to be able to do that? Like, as a human being, it must be really difficult to be able to do that.
I don't find it to be difficult for myself, but I definitely understand how it could be difficult. And that's what we do with these clients, is to show them that it's okay if there's challenges along the way. that we're all learning as we go. I learn as much from my clients as they learn from me. But sometimes we're not given these tools in school, or our upbringings don't really give us enough guidance how to do it. It's just like expected, you should know. So really, for what I find is that the more that we can actually form attachments with our clients, then the more they're prepared for the real world.
But to Kat's point, intimacy does involve attraction. Right? It has to. Physically, there has to be something that happens to a man if it's going to go further as well. How do you manage that, Andre, if you've got a client that perhaps you aren't sexually attracted to, but wants to take that further?
Physically, I would say that as a man, like, we don't have to have all of our body parts working in order to form intimate connection, or in order to have physical intimacy be something that feels good in our body. That's a common misconception, that we're supposed to have that. And really what we can do is tune into our body and say, I'm enjoying touch, I'm enjoying hugging, I'm enjoying kissing, and that can be an intimate moment. And then that takes us out of our head, which allows the rest of our body to come online.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so, Kat, who are your clients? Because obviously we see you with the young, I mean, they're all quite young, sort of mid-20s to early 30s on Virgin Island. What's the range and age of clients that you work with outside of the show?
Yeah, I work with a lot of young clients. I would say probably 25 to late 40s is the general age range I work with. I have some up to like late 60s. Really? But in general, that's the age range.
And what about your own personal relationships too? How do you handle those?
It's really easy. It's a job. It's part of my life, and the people in my life support me and understand how impactful this work is, and you get to see how impactful it is by watching this show.
Do you have
Without a doubt.
Do you have a partner?
I do.
You do have a partner. And what does your partner think about what it is that you do?
Absolutely supportive.
Yeah?
Yes.
Amazing. How about you, Kat? Is that a complication? Have you got a partner?
Yes, and I think it is a little bit more difficult for me, I think for me sometimes to have enough relational energy to go around can be a little bit challenging, and to know when to kind of fill the cup and when to give.
Yeah.
I think it can be a little difficult, but I mean, ultimately, you know, there's more flow than not.
Yeah, and I'd imagine as well, for some of the people with intimacy issues, and you give every part of yourself to them, they can form an attachment to you as well. How do you navigate the period when the exploration that you've been doing with them and the teaching you've been doing with them has to finish, and then they have to go on? Because I'd imagine that connection would be quite hard for them to break.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important part of the process, and most relationships end, you know, and so learning how to have a conscious ending to a relationship is just another relationship skill. So we welcome the attachment, and then we work through that ending, and the sessions are always one with a surrogate partner and one with a therapist, and they'll continue with the therapist after they finish with us to integrate and generalize.
So it's done side by side?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And who do you think progressed the most out on Virgin Island? Who do you think... Because we saw the difference, didn't we? Even with Jordan and Taylor when they came on the show.
I don't believe I can pick one person.
Right.
Like, seeing everyone for the first time, coming onto the island, and then seeing them as they left, and you'll see the finale when we get there.
Yeah.
But everyone grew. I know that I also grew during this show.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most common misconception about surrogates?
The most common misconception would be that sex always has to be involved, or that sex is the main goal. And really, with surrogate partner therapy, it's all about connection, helping someone connect to themselves, connect to others. And while we can potentially get there with clients, there isn't like a goal, and the speed that we go and how far we go is client dependent. So it really is all about relationship building more than anything.
Well, having had Jordan and Taylor in on the studio, and obviously the show was filmed about a year ago, the difference in the two of them from what we saw from these first two episodes was dramatic.
Confidence, how they held
So you clearly
themselves.
have
It's brilliant.
helped
So
them
proud of both.
enormously. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very
and
much.
sharing
Thank
over
you
your
so
story.
much.
Oh, hello.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.